Hey everyone, welcome to MinDape 2020. I'm so glad you're here for the Using Fans to Increase Engagement and Social and Emotional Learning. I'm Jen Heebink, and I'm really glad you're here. I hope that you can just take something out of this presentation, whether if it's a piece of equipment or something that you can just immediately use in your class. So for those of you that haven't caught me on a different session, I am Jen Heebink. I teach full-time DAPE at Buffalo High School and Buffalo Community Middle School, and I am a 2010 UW River Falls Falcon grad. I also teach Unified PE at Buffalo Community Middle School and Buffalo High School, and I am married to a Wayzata High School teacher. He teaches physics and astronomy, and I have two little girls, and one's a first grader this year, the other one's in daycare, so just crazy times all over for all of us. So let's continue here. So let's talk about like some of those feelings we have early in our career when it comes to learning about all different kinds of equipment. I know for me, I initially had a really hard time just understanding how switch work was important and just thinking through how can I implement switch work into my program in the gym. Why in the gym? And I also struggled with getting some of our students with severe and multiple impairments engaged with other students for social play and partner play. And I know that most of us as teachers, when we struggle deeply with something that isn't going well, I know for me, I go to the ends of the earth to figure out what is going to work for my students. And so this is something I've been digging in deeply with my PLC and just trying to research from the people who know how to work with switches best and engage in those recreation and leisure activities best. Jody Duff and a whole bunch of teachers on Twitter, the best learning network there is for adapted PE is out on Twitter. So many people sharing their content. I know I share a lot of stuff at Jen Heebink. If you didn't catch that earlier, that's my Twitter handle. But yeah, just trying to figure out how does switch work really work for my students. And that was an area I just kind of felt weak in. And so, like I said, I just kind of dug in and started figuring out what is going to work for my students. As a DAPE teacher, I love what Jody Duff says about when you are a DAPE teacher, you have the opportunity to change a school culture when it comes to teaching people about what kids can do. Maybe they can't be in a regular Phy Ed class because it's not safe, or maybe they can't kick a ball or throw a bat or hit with a bat or throw a ball. But as a DAPE teacher, we get to kind of reframe that and talk about what a kid can do. Do they have wrist motion? Do they have mobility in their shoulders? Can they move their neck? And kind of picking all the things that they can do, because once you figure out what a kid can do, it empowers them to do bigger things. So let's get rolling on some of Shelly Moore's stuff. So I love Shelly Moore. She's one of those people that I hope one day I get to meet in real life. She's on my bucket list of people that I want to meet. She has a blog, and her Twitter handle is @tweetsomemore, and she also is really huge on YouTube. She has 5-minute YouTube clips that are so good. She's a researcher, a special education teacher, and she also actually has a disability herself. But she has shared these circles as the evolution of inclusion. And over the years, in the last probably 100 years, 120 years, we have moved from having people with disabilities out of society, out of school, and being completely excluded. And we have moved through segregation and having students with disabilities and mental health issues kind of in a separate little pod, and saying you can come to school, but no one's going to see you. You're not going to be able to be a part of that society. You can come to it, but you're not doing the things that other general education students are doing. And then we move to integration, which is kind of keeping their little pod within the mainstream, but you're staying as a little pod. And then inclusion, which is where teachers and other people just understand and empathize with every single person, all students, no matter their disability, ability, unique ability, mental health, all that, just understanding all those different kinds of needs and kind of becoming an empathetic culture. And I know as she talks about the evolution of inclusion, sometimes our schools are still in some of these circles. I can just picture different times in our school the last 10 years where we've moved into different models. And even in the Phi-Ed class, you know, sometimes they're integrated and sometimes that's the safest bubble for them, and that's okay. But a lot of times we just don't know how to engage in other people's unique abilities. And so I love how Shelley Moore talks about that. So as we're going through this, I want you to start thinking through your caseloads. Who are the students that you work with who are on those outer fringes? Or if you're a college student, think back to your high school days. And maybe you knew students with disabilities and maybe you didn't, but who are those students that were excluded? And how, as a teacher, are we going to work to include them in their safest ability, their least restrictive environment, so that they can have the opportunities that all the other kids have, most safe ability possible, in this most safe situation possible. Because using switch work to kind of use it as a gateway into recreation and leisure allows them to engage with equipment, and that's kind of one step closer to engaging with social peers or partner play or social play. So you're going to see some of those steps happening in some of these video clips that are coming to you. And the biggest thing that I learned early in my career that this is the part that kind of started digging into, is the cause and effect relationship. So when you have a switch, or let's talk as an able-bodied person, person without disabilities, how do you communicate when something has happened? When you knock over a bucket, you know that it falls onto the floor and you have to clean it up. That's kind of a consequence. When you communicate, hey, I'm going to go to the bathroom, where is it? You're able to kind of get a response from someone else to say, hey, the bathroom's down the hallway. A student who may not have the communication skills as everybody else may use a switch to engage in that cause and effect relationship. So if I have a student that uses a switch to communicate bathroom needs, he or she might hit a switch, boom, and the switch has a recording on it. It says, I need to use the bathroom. Well, that cues the staff to say, oh, we got to get that student to the bathroom. And another way that cause and effect relationship is so important is that, you know, when a student hits a switch and a toy buzzes or vibrates or lights turn on, that student knows that they caused that cause. And so when that cause and effect relationship is learned, then the next step, it's almost the most basic of skill it's so important. It's one of the most important, most basic skills that we need to teach our student, is that there is a cause for everything that you hit a switch. Something is going to happen. When you knock over a bucket, something is going to happen. I had a student early on in my career that kind of got the wheels turning, and her only goal, she was a transition plus student, was to hit a switch, and every time she hit the switch, all of her friends would come over and say, hey, good job, you hit that switch. And that student would know that, oh, I hit a switch and something happened. The emotions changed. Somebody started smiling at me. That cause and effect relationship is so important. So I kind of wanted to share a little bit about that. So the rest of this presentation, how it's going to go is that you will see some of our equipment needs, what I use in mine. I'm going to show you sport after sport after sport of how I use the leaf blowers and switches and how I set it up. And I have a whole bunch of video clips of those things. So I will show you that. And then at the end, what I want you guys to do is just any questions that you have, go ahead and go in the comment section and ask those, because I'm hoping to be live with you in the comments. And anything that you're taking away, just say, hey, oh, I'm totally taking that and putting that in my classroom. I know it's COVID right now and everything kind of looks different, but maybe you're able to take something, put it in the comments. I love to hear feedback about that. So here are some different fans that I use. So I use the floor fans. I actually kind of took it from the custodial closet at my school, and nobody has asked, so I'm just going to keep going with it. The leaf blower I bought, I'm going to show you that leaf blower in a minute, and you can use the giant large space fans. I've used those giant gym fans before, where, you know, the example I have in my head right now is that you know, they wash the floor before graduation and it needs to dry really quick, so they take out all those fans. I've used those before. And then circular floor fans, I've seen people use them as well. I'm going to share a video about that. Activity balls. So I use beach balls of all sizes. I have ones that are like small like this. I have medium size, and I have big ones. I also use the feather light balls. Those are like balloon style, but they have I forget the word that everybody's allergic to, but it doesn't have any of that in it because our district cannot have that. I also use giant playground balls, and they're not like the thick rubber. They're like the thin, light ones that make volleyball fun and kickball fun. And so I use one of those. And then you're going to see a Nerf style football and gator ball for some of those short range activities. So those are some of the activity balls that you will see. Additional supplies, you are going to need a bowling ramp and bungee cords to hold all that together until someone in the engineering world figures out how awesome the gateway to adaptive equipment is. We will be with our leaf blowers for a while. So you'll also need extension cords and scarves, and find anything that will fly and float, because that just kind of makes it fun. Here's my leaf blower. It is the Toro 51585 Power Sweep Electric Leaf Blower, 7 amp, 2 speed. It is $39.99 currently on Amazon. And you're going to notice over here that it needs that extension cord to be plugged into. So just be safe with that. It does not come with that extension cord. Here is my AbleNet switch. It comes with 2 plugins and a power source that needs to be plugged into the wall. I'm going to show you a video of how to set that up. And it comes from ablenet.com, but I actually checked in with some of my case managers, and they had just a pile of these like laying around. So I was like, can I take one for DAPE? So I only had to order one for one of my schools. And I love this because it's Bluetooth. And if you have a kid that's walking around that doesn't like to sit still, you can use these jelly bean switches. This is what I use. They also have like Big Red. They have all sorts of switches that you guys can check into, but I like this kind. It's small. And I'm going to show you the video of what this looks like as well. This is also an ablenet.com purchase. And just another important thing is, like, what can a student do? What part of their body moves best? What is the strongest? So I have students who have used head switches where they hit the switch with the head and that activates a toy or something. I've used those big reds where you just hit it and it's like the size of your hand, just kind of more surface area. For kids, when they put them on their trays, it's just easier to hit. But I do really like these jelly bean kind. So just knowing, like, if a kid maybe has more mobility in the toes than the hands, maybe you put the Big Red under the toe and then they just tap it with the toe. So just thinking about those things for your students. This is how I set up our AbleNet switch. So you plug it into the wall, and then there's the power going on, and you can see it turns on. It's electronic. You can move the mode to switch the amount of time that each switch, if you hit it for a second, it turns off in a second, or you can move it up the amount of seconds. You can also, I think there's like, I have 2 switches, so you can do more than one switch into this and plug in two resources. So if you have a leaf blower and a fan blowing, you could choose which one of those is coordinated. This is the jelly belly, or the jelly bean. Sorry, that's loud. Hold on one sec. There we go. The jelly bean, you can turn it on and off. It's small. You can hold it in your hand. It's Bluetooth, wireless. You could probably also plug something into that switch as well. Sorry for the noise on that. I know that was loud. Here is how I plug it in. So this is in my garage, so it's kind of a mess, but you plug it in. Here's my floor fan. And I have the floor fan turned on to level 3 right here. And then my little Hannah is gonna come help me and she's going to do a demonstration with me. So there's the switch. So when you hit the switch, there's obviously the amount of air coming out there is pretty powerful. So I'm going to have Hannah stand out in the driveway, and I'm going to send some scarves out to her. So here's where that partner and social play becomes really exciting, because when a student hits a switch, something happens, right? And then increasing that that cause and effect relationship, where I hit a switch, something happens, and now somebody's really happy. Their smile changed, their emotions changed. So here we have that flying scarf, and Hannah's really excited, and it becomes kind of a team effort. So now your student is really involved. So again, one more time, I hit the switch, or my student hits the switch. This could be a throwing and catching activity. And all of my students love the floor fan. So it doesn't have to be just one student. Safety. So you want to watch fingers. I've never had a student like stick their finger in, and I don't think you can, but I have had students stick equipment in there, and I've just had to fish it out. So just be aware. And then throwing switches, if you have a student that likes to throw stuff, you might just want to keep it in a safe place. It can take a couple of knocks to the ground pretty well. I've dropped it a couple times, not on purpose, but it does end up being a thing where you might have to unscrew it and readjust it. So they're pretty durable. And then watch cords. So you want to have that switch in the corner of the gym where there's not a lot of running through the gym and stuff, because those cords are going to kind of be your best friends just to keep everything plugged in. And then of course, keeping that switch in a safe place. All right, so here's another setup. Apologize if there's noise on this one again. So here is my teaching space, and this is how my beach ball floats. Hit the switch and it floats. I'm going to show you some videos later on how to go ahead and do that as well. All right, and then next, moving along, we're into sports. Let's do some sports. Yoga and breathing. So for yoga and breathing, what I love is that we have this cause and effect relationship where if I put a scarf and I blow, that scarf blows away. So I have some students that it's really, really hard to do that combination of motor planning and blowing and hitting a switch for. So I like to set up this floor fan with the tied scarves together, so that when we hit that switch, something happens to that scarf and they feel it coming up into their face. So again, they feel the air, and then when they let go of the switch, it falls down. All right, grasping and visually tracking. I love this one because this student, she engaged with this activity so well. This is a student that doesn't really have a lot of social play, but she is able to work with this blower and be grasping and throwing and visually tracking. That was huge for her that day. All right, on to catching and grasping. And I think there might be some sound on this. I apologize if there is. So this is kind of another setup. It's gonna have sound, yeah. So there it's over the blower. This is kind of an extension of what I was doing with Hannah. So here comes the switch. And there we blow that. Perfect. Let's get back to the presentation. All right, moving on. So soccer. We just get that blower on the ground, that leaf blower on the ground, we hit the switch, and now we're engaging with a partner activity, kicking that ball back and forth. For the first time ever, my students were able to kick a ball to a partner. It was very, very cool. It was fun to see, and everybody got really, really excited. So again, that cause and effect relationship of I kicked a ball and now something's happening. It was really awesome. So one more time, again, the blower is on the ground, super simple setup. Grab a ball, and we send that to our partner. That social play has become such an awesome bonus to floor fans. So I have a student who you're going to see in this one who loves football, and you would never, if you didn't sit down and just talk to him, you would never know that he's a football fan. And so in my unified PE class, I've had a couple of really awesome football players. And so now he's been able to engage in some conversation with those guys. And he's never been able to call a play. He's never been able to play the quarterback. And now with this switch, he has the opportunity to control that play. And then you're going to see me use a different kind of equipment to catch. So just mixing it up a little bit. He's got the best smile. I love that kid. There you go. That's that feather light ball, and I just caught it in a storage bin. His smile. I love his smile. Here's another, if you're doing throwing football to a target. Let's watch that again because it goes really fast. So as you can see, it's up on the bowling ramp. I have some short targets for if I have heavier balls. And there you can see I have the regular basketball hoop. I have a big hoop below that, kind of extending it and widening it out, and a low hoop. So that student can kind of aim for whatever target they need to. One more time all together. Boom. And that's that feather light ball. I can't remember if I mentioned that before. Those things are amazing. They just fly. Here's some more Twitter. And this is that Nerf ball. It's a football, and it just lands right in our student's lap. It's so perfect. It's short range, and then these three were engaging in a game, and I haven't been able to do that, and the switches just made it so possible. It's been so fun to watch. You can tell it's early in my career of switch work because I've been using bungee cords, and that looks like duct tape. Bowling. This is bowling, super easy setup. Obviously, if you're going to a bowling alley, the most real situation is that you're using a ramp. But if you're working on independence and switch work and taking turns and everything, this is a really just different, great option. Oh, let's go back. Play. So again, floor fan, soccer ball, pins, perfect. So basketball, let's talk basketball really quick. I don't know who posted it on Twitter, but sticking hula hoops in the bleachers and making the hoop wider and lower and adjustable, that changed my life this year. So thank you. If that is you, man, thank you. So you're going to see right now I have in this video, I have my leaf blower with the hoop, and I don't have bleachers obviously outside, but I do have a recycling bin. And so I just kind of crunched it in there, and it seemed to work. So here is the whole clip again, and it hit the rim. I'm going to try and show you some more tweets so you can actually see what's happening in my class. So this was actually my class. So I have a kid on a regular hoop, a kid on a modified hoop. Let's see if I can scroll, man. There we go. And we have the leaf blower set up. So regular hoop, modified hoop, and floor fan or leaf blower. And you can tell they're stuffed in the bleachers at varying levels. And I'm going to show you really quick what the leaf blower, it was so exciting for the student. I'm going to show you this next tweet. So he hit his switch for the first time and made a basket, and I got it on video. It was so good. And then, of course, we all got excited, and he was like, something happened. It was so good. One more time. He hits his big red switch, boom, into the bleacher. So good, buddy. And then this last one is kind of a different way to do it. So what you're going to see is I have a gator ball actually set up with a big brute tub, and it's on rollers. So he uses the switch with the leaf blower. And the nice thing, so this is actually a gator ball, so it has some weight, but those things still kind of fly. And if we get that brute thing, that brute holder, it's on wheels. So you could, in theory, roll that thing and make it like a moving target. Those kids enjoyed that a lot. And you could have another kid being that moving target and trying to catch it. So that was kind of a fun activity we did. Bocce ball, super easy. So I do bocce ball in my unified PE class, and it's just, I have a partner and a teammate using a switch. The partner rolls out the ball, and then they each take their turn. So you're just aiming for a ball, super easy. I have the beach ball with a leaf blower, and we're aiming for that small beach ball. That's kind of our target. I like to use equipment that kind of makes sense when it comes to, in bocce ball, we have the little white ball that you aim for. So if we're using adaptive equipment, let's use a smaller ball just to kind of represent that size. But so that's bocce ball. Skee ball. Okay, so I saw something on Twitter that I wanted to try and I haven't been able to put it together until now. Skee ball with a floor fan. Check this out. Boom, and we set up hula hoops. So right here, you're gonna see the skee ball jump. So it's like a piece of flexible fake wood that goes up on the laundry basket and allows the ball to jump into the targets. Let's watch it one more time. Boom, up into the target. I love it. I'm gonna use that this year. Baseball, softball, lots that you can do with this. Check this out. So you can kind of make like a modified tee, and they're working as a team now. You hit that switch, you can adjust the amount of time that switch is going. Even if they just bump it, you can make it go for like 10 seconds. And then they work as a team to hit off that tee. Here is the, let's see, let's watch this one again. So as you can see, it's gonna kind of float a little bit. Boom, Hannah doesn't waste time. She just goes after it. All right. Now, this next clip, this was one of the highlights from the year for me before COVID. So I had a student pitch me the ball for the first time ever. And that opens it up for that student because now they can pitch a ball to somebody else and they can hit. Maybe they haven't been able to do that before. I don't know. It was just mind blowing to me because I just never thought of it like that. But this leaf blower stuff, this has been really powerful. So check this out. And whoever says you need a small ball to pitch to, let's use one of those big playground balls because those are fun to hit. One more time, leaf blower. Nice pitch. Volleyball, lots you can do with volleyball too. I picture this is like a team thing where you're helping each other strike. A lot of teachers will use those big cones, but you can just use a leaf blower. It works really well. And then you're working as a team to help each other. One more time. And a strike. Boom. Volleyball. Here is another setup. So you have the leaf blower, it's the feather light ball. You get the partner to stand a good ways away because the feather light balls, they fly, like I said. So you can do a passing drill with this. So the student with the leaf blower passes the ball and the other student passes back. So hit the switch, boom, and Hannah, boop. I love that. She does such a good job. One more time. Hits and hit. I love my little Hannah. So this next one, this is actually my unified PE class. This is getting into some more large group games, but I set up my switch in the way far corner, way in the back, but it becomes the king court. And it's, you can play regular volleyball and always have that be a serve, but we set up 6-court volleyball and it works as a team. You have to work up to that king court. And it's very fast moving and everybody's playing all the time. We have a practice court and then the four square in the air basically with a team. And so this back corner, those kids with the switches that need that switch work, they're starting the play. And so they get lots of reps. And then you're going to see how their team helps them. So there's the switch way in the back. Their team is helping, getting it over. And that's where that team play and that interactive social play is so important because a lot of our students just have never felt like a part of a team or a part of a Phi Ed class. So one more time, there's that teammate and partner, and they help each other off the switch. So stinking fun. Large group games. So you saw my volleyball setup. I would like to share a little bit about like handball and football. So I still set up my switch in the far corner closest to an outlet because I don't want kids tripping over wires. But if someone scores on that side, or if the ball goes out on that side, you can use that switch as a way to inbound the ball and that kid gets some reps. So that's kind of how I like to set up my large group games. For kickball, I just put the switch kind of right in the middle, and I kind of help kids around the court, but it helps kids pitch, can be a pitcher for kickball, which is pretty cool. And then for board games, sometimes I use this spinner. So if you hit the switch and it kind of does the Wheel of Fortune thing where it goes around and around, and it's set up as a dice, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, then that kid can take a turn and have that dice. So there are some ways that we can do that. We can also work on communication skills where it's my turn, your turn, during board games as well. So now I'm going to share a little bit about Jody Duff and the Power of Can. And Jody's name is with a Y, not an I. I figured that out after I did this recording. But she was the one that came to the Minnesota DAPE conference, and because of the student population that she works with, she has kind of reframed the way I look at my students and what they can do. Because a lot of times we see students and they're like, oh, they can't go to mainstream Phi Ed, they don't have mobility, they don't have this, they can't do this, they can't lift weights. But if you look at what they can do and figure out the mobility of what they can do, and it can hit a switch or it can hit differently, or, you know, in Jody's case, she has a putter that a kid loves. She actually, the kid likes to drive, you know, steering wheel. So she made a putter into a turning wheel so that he can participate in golf. Like, that's what she thinks about. And I don't have that engineer kind of brain, but she's had to do that for all of her students to figure out what works best for them. That's what her students can do. So what can your students do? We have the opportunity to change a culture and just stop thinking what can't our kids do, but what can our kids do. When you do that, you empower your student. And I think as a DAPE teacher, we have a really awesome job, and we get to be the person that does that. And we get to empower the student and all the kids around them. Let's talk about the floor fan really quick. This is what Jody uses. I'm going to try and scroll if it's going to let me. There we go. Now it's too much. But she has this circular fan, and all the air kind of stays right there because, yes, physics. And she can call color, and the kid has to visually track and then strike, just like so. And then this is her volleyball setup. And you're going to see a kid be able to use this in a minute. But her kid is able to move their hand, and she's got it maneuvered and jerry-rigged into this switch, into the leaf blower, and into that setup for volleyball. And then this, she has her student, and you can't hear it, but they are cheering this kid on like you would not believe. He's got the mobility in his arms. You can see there's a bell down here so that when that cause happens, he hears it. And they're all cheering him on. And now look, he is now playing volleyball with a partner. He is engaged and make that connection to somebody across the court from him that he might not have ever had unless, you know, Jody came up with this. So I like to use that as a visual representation of what my kids are capable of, because we just forget, like, we get the honor of kind of allowing kids to enter into those rec and leisure, and sometimes it looks different than everybody else. So thinking about social and emotional learning, some of our kids have been so excluded that they do not know what it feels like to be in a game. And I think that's hard. And when you think about what we have the opportunity to do, we get to the opportunity to increase their partner play. We get the opportunity to increase their social ability, their ability to know that when a cause happens and people's emotions change, they cause that. And the impact it impacts the character from the student that they're working with, because maybe it opens their eyes to a whole new world of engaging with people who are different than them. And then it also reduces the amount of staff and para support that this student needs, because in high school and middle school, no one wants to have someone, an adult, looking over their shoulder all the time telling them what to do and how to do it and reaching for their hand all the time. And maybe they don't have that control, but if we can give them that, if they're able to hit a switch, let's reduce that dependence on staff. And then it also, if they have a goal elsewhere that they're working on switch work, it totally reinforces the whole process and reinforces other core areas of what they're working on towards that goal. We can also make their switch work standard based and kind of work on those really, you know, object manipulation, making it really, really simple, some of those things. So I want you to think about for a second, if you've used switches, what would life be like without those switches? For me, looking back and seeing how just not confident in using those switches I started off in, and just looking back now and seeing this last year and a half of, wow, switches really make a difference. When I'm able to open up that world of rec and leisure for that kid, that makes me feel like I'm doing my job and doing a really good job of it. And so just looking back at some of those things, I hope if you're a student, get to know what it means and what it looks like to have switches and work with switches. If you are in higher ed, get your kids working with switches so that they know how to teach switching, switch work. Use those leaf blowers, those fans, find them in the custodial closet and figure out what works, what flies, what would be fun. Do a lesson plan with it. And then us DAPE teachers, man, we got the awesomest job in the world. We get to figure out how students can move and increase their independence in that way in recreation and leisure. So in the comments now, I would like you guys to go ahead and leave questions, and I will try and answer. I'm going to try and stay, we're probably at like 45 minutes right now. So I'm going to stay until 50 minutes and answer some of those comments. And then if you have 2 takeaways that you will use, that you saw me use, or you're like, yeah, I'm totally going to take that, or just something I said or whatever, share that in the comments. Give me the feedback. If there's something that I could work on, or if you've used something that works, share that with me. I'd love to just use some new things as well. So thank you so much. I hope you guys have an awesome MinDAPE 2020. Peace out.